So we are going to, it doesn't really matter what colour you use for this. You can see I've cleaned my palette ready for the new term. Oh look, let's go for a purple wash. So mix up colour on your palette. Have you got, I bet you haven't got palettes on here, I forgot to say about palettes. If you haven't got a palette, there are some by the sink. A plastic palette or a tile palette if you've got tubes. If you've got a set, you've got some space on your set of paints. You should have some space you can use. So we're just going to do a little wash.
So are we going heavy on the water, or how are we going?
So that is quite a strong colour. You can check it on your paper. I say it could be a sky, but I've just picked purple because sometimes you get fed up with doing blue all the time. We'll start off with a purple wash. So always use the bottom of your paper, or a bit at the side, so you can check the strength of your wash. And we're only going to do a little one, so we don't need loads of paint mixed up, but we do need to make sure whatever size wash we're doing or piece of paper we're covering, we need to have enough paint mixed up, because it's when you have to stop and then you have to add more paint and more water and you run out, that's when things can go wrong. Because the thing about doing a wash is it has to be done quickly. So I'm just going to do a flat wash, so a nice big brush, load it with paint, and then we'll just work nice and evenly. I'm just going to do halfway across, loading the brush every time. You can see because we've got it tilted up, back and working left to right, just keeping that nice big reservoir of water or of colour along that edge. So we just slowly, don't do it too quick, keep trying to feed into that little reservoir of water or of colour, and that will enable us to no, we're just doing it onto dry paper. So I say we're not going all the way down, so as you get towards the end of where you want to finish, just use that bit of paint that's at the bottom. Different colours will react a little bit differently, so if we used an ultramarine or something, that might go a little bit grainy. We're only going halfway because we're going to get some different experiments onto our piece of paper. So I've just washed and dried my brush, and I'm just going to soak up that bit of colour there as well.
Mine is quite liney.
Right, so if you've got lines in it, it's because you've done it too quickly. So the important thing is to keep feeding in the paint so that it's the ridge of water that is soaking into the paper rather than the paint that's on your paper. So again, it's let's have a look. Anybody else got lines? That looks all right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a bit streaky. If you go back into it, if you go back into it, then that's when the problems can occur.
Yes, I like problems. Problems should be overcome.
Just feel like
It's a bit streaky.
Yeah. 2 seconds too late.
This is like reservoir of water. So it's always good to make an error with the first one, because you can come back and do the second one, which will be perfect. For the second one we're going to do, just let you catch up. Hello. 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 Oh, it's 7.
Because I was early.
Right, do you want to grab a seat? So it's Claire. Claire, right. Have you got watercolour
up and down the back driveway.
They're ignoring me. Right, pot of water. So if you leave your paper onto there, just put a bit of tape, it just stops it curling up when you put in water onto it. This is a good chat, everybody chance to catch up.
I can see it.
So if you want to ready with me, Bob Ross tree on the front. Get plenty of paper and stuff in your So the thing about washes is, yeah, you don't want to fiddle with them. You don't want to go back into them because that's when you're putting fresh paint, fresh water in, and what happens is it gets even more streakier, and then it sort of pushes the pigment, and you get strange shapes and lines. Which, if you want strange shapes and lines, that's great. If you want a flat wash, it's not so good. So, so what we've just done with this, Claire, is we mixed up plenty of paint. And then we put a flat wash down. We're going to go through and do another wash at the side, so it's the same principle, so don't worry about you know, missing that first bit. We're going to do a second wash, and this time we're going to lift out some colour for clouds. Okay, so I've got purple water now, so probably better stick with purple, haven't I? And it's all run down onto the, I've lost all my purple paint now, it's all run down. Perhaps I better go for blue. Although it could be purple clouds. Right, what colour is that? Sometimes it's difficult to tell the colours, isn't it? Right, so plenty of paint mixed up again. So we're using a nice big brush, so a number 12, something like that is ideal. So get plenty of paint mixed. Now this one, because we're going to lift out, we want it to stay wet as long as we can, so we're going to wet the paper. So on your second half, mine's going to come out a bit purple because I've got purple water, but never mind. I say you can use any colour you want, or probably not yellow because yellow is difficult to see.
We don't want them to touch.
You don't want to what?
We don't want this to touch on.
No, leave a little gap. So I usually leave a little gap around the painting rather than going right to the edge of your piece of paper as well. So wet that, so damp the paper. Again, we're going to work and lift out with some tissue or a brush, but we'll need tissue in our hand. Oh, the paint keeps going down the ridge. Right, so I've lost all my paint I've mixed up. I don't know what colour I was using. Right, so we're going to do exactly the same. So remember, load your brush, go across. Load your brush, go across again. You can see it's beginning to move down already. Just keep working slowly across that paper, not coming down too quickly. You see the wetness of the background is pulling the paint down for us anyway. So every time I'm going into my paint, loading my brush and then coming down. Don't fiddle with it. Right, I'm going to wash my brush, dry it off. I'm just going to again try and get rid of this reservoir with a dry brush. Try and soak that up. And now with a clean dry brush we're going to lift out some cloud shapes. So I'm just sort of going to scrub with the brush, washing it, drying it. Some sort of random shapes of clouds. So wash it, dry it on your tissue, because we don't want to add any other water to this. So we're just washing it to get rid of the paint that we're lifting off, drying it on your tissue, and just lift off some cloud shapes. Just take that down there as well. Now because this is onto wet, we used a wet paper, we get a much softer feel at the edges of our clouds. So they're quite nice, sort of soft, billowy clouds. This is why we have to work quite quickly, because we don't want it to dry. If it's dried, then it's harder to lift off. So we get a nice sort of soft feel with the clouds.
Mine's gone too far for this. So I think it's gone too thick.
So you can scrub with your brush. So we're going to wash your brush,
Okay.
dry it, and then you can scrub.
Oh, okay.
It'll be a little bit firmer with it.
Okay.
It's sometimes strange, life is stranger than trying to paint it. So scrub it, if it's not lifting off, just scrub it a little bit, so be a bit firmer with it. Wash your brush, dry it, you're lifting off paint, so make sure it's all dry, and then sort of scrub with the paintbrush. That's it, so if you want to take a bit more off, you can sort of wash your brush, dry it, and then do a scrub so that we get these lifted off nice and quickly, and then we get this sort of soft feel. So have you done much watercolour?
Not for a very, very
Not for a
long
while,
time.
so
It's
that's
about 20 years.
Yeah. So what we're doing this week is we're doing sort of little test pieces, sample pieces. So we're going to do like washes, skies, salt, cling fill, wet into wet, stones, trees, using some sponges and tissues and so on. So that next week we put some of these skills and techniques we've learned into a watercolour picture. Sometimes, you know, we go in and trying to paint a picture too quickly almost, and then, you know, your wash goes wrong at the beginning, and then you've got in a mess with it. So doing some little tasters, it can help you to get organised. It's a bit about planning, really. So that sky all right, clouds all right? I suppose, yeah, I would probably change the water. There just happens to be one here, which is very nice for me. If you've got very dirty water, or you've used a bright pink or purple, which you chose to go with your hair, didn't you, Rob? Did you? Is it all coming back to you?
I'm just going to do a massive sneeze.
What is this technique? Scumbling, isn't it?
That's what you do on walls, isn't it? But it is sort of scumbling, because you're sort of just, you're lifting out, but you can be, I say, you can be quite firm with your brush, because we're almost scrubbing the paint off. So we're going to do another little way of creating clouds, and then we're going to put some colour down, and we're just going to throw some salt into it. So we've got some little boxes of salt on your table. We've also got some dishwasher salt, which obviously is much, much bigger, so we'll try putting some of those on. So remember, what does the salt do when we put it on? Put it on.
Sauce, yeah.
Yeah, so
Stops it being slippy.
So it pulls out the water and the pigment, so we get this nice speckled effect. But we're going to do another sky in the bottom corner here, because obviously doing landscapes we tend to do a lot of skies. My paint's all come through. It'd be too good to not get paint all over me. So did anybody see me on the telly yesterday? No.
I saw you on the shared one.
The shared one.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was all of 10 seconds. The BBC Radio Leicester did a longer interview, and that was on Friday morning at about 7:15. If anybody wants to listen to it, I'll probably put it up on Facebook. So it's all about the elephants that are now gone back to Laros, and they will be auctioned off. There is an open day at Laros on the 4th and 5th, or open weekend, 4th and 5th, where all the elephants, so there'll be 40 big elephants and 80 little elephants, if you did want to go and see them all, which I think would be quite exciting. So, we are going to do another sky here. Let's wait for...
Wait, have we saw? Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's okay.
Yeah, we're not going to put salt on the sky, we're going to do.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to wet the paper again. So wet your square. And this is a really quick, easy way of creating a sky. Being able to do a wash is, I would say, probably one of the basic skills of watercolour. So, and it's something that it's good to practice because it shows control. This one, so I'll wet the paper. I'm going to pick up, again, load my brush with blue paint, and rather than painting and lifting out the clouds, I'm going to paint around the clouds. So we sort of, again, it's quite wet, so you can see the paint dragging down. So what I want to do is to leave some white spaces, and again I can wash and dry my brush, and I can just soften some of these edges if it's a little bit wet or it's running too much, just to bring out these clouds again. So we don't have to do a wash, we literally just put a bit of blue in to suggest the sky, leave some spaces for some clouds, and then just do a little bit of adjusting to get the shapes looking nice. And we'll never go in with a wet brush, always wash it and dry it. Otherwise, if we go in with a wet paintbrush, we'll get that pigment, the water pushing the pigment to the edges, and we'll get these sort of cauliflower type skies. So we'll keep them nice and simple, we're just using the one colour. Just slightly different strengths of the colour, so we've got some stronger blues coming through, and where it was a bit wetter. Let's bless you. Got the paint getting up your nose, is it? Again, if you've got a bit of an excess of water at the bottom, just mop that up with tissue or your brush. To put this flat because my washes are still going, but I don't want it too tilted to do my salt one. And you can use any colour you want with this. I'm thinking if I was going to do, say, a garden, I'd want some greens and perhaps some yellows and some reds. So I'm going to put it on to dry. So I'm just going to dab some bits of green. I'll put some bits of sort of sienna type colour.
Onto dry paper, yeah?
Onto dry paper, yeah, because we don't want it to run too much. We want to keep it good strong colours as well. We don't want it all to mix in, and we don't want to end up with like a brown mass. And if there's some bits of white showing.
What kind of effect are we making this one currently?
What kind of what?
What effect of the watercolour?
This is, we're going to put the salt onto this one.
Okay.
So I just want a nice sort of darkish green to add in. So it needs to be nice and wet. And then while it's still wet, get your salt. Ooh, get it open. Do you remember these? Just get your films in.
Yeah.
Very useful little containers. So, and then just sprinkle your salt on. Not too much, just sort of between your thumb and your finger, do a little sprinkling of salt. And then we'll just leave that and let that do its work. So sometimes you may want to put some notes at the side, you know, onto dry paper, onto wet paper. I've got some of this big pieces of dishwasher salt here. It has to be really wet to work. It's such a big lump of salt. Almost already it begins to look a bit like a flowery expanse. So I need to, can't get any more onto this page, so I'm going to take it off. Remove my bit of tape. Try not to disturb it too much because I don't want to. The wash is very wet. You don't want it to start running back. So take that out and just pop that on one side to dry. Just put my tape over the edges again. Got one more sheet.
Yes. How many do I need? 5.
10, yeah. 1, 2. Well, perhaps I have to work smaller.
I've got a sketch pad.
Yes. Right, so. Right. We've used it before. It's always a good thing. Cling film. Yeah? You remember when we've used it before? No, we've not used cling film before. Right, so you need a bit of cling film again. It's another thing you can put in your watercolour. Right, cling film. We want it scrunched up, we don't want it pulled tight, we want to scrunch it up. And it acts in the same sort of way as that salt does, is that it moves the paint around and it gives us creases and lines in our watercolour that we're going to put down. So again, we want to use different colours, we don't just want one colour, and it doesn't really matter what colours you use. Sometimes it's nice to use colours that you don't generally use very much, colours that are still pristine in your water box. So we want to try and keep the colours a little bit separate, we don't want them all to merge into one. So do that again while it's wet, just tap your cling film onto there, and we have to leave that because it takes a little bit of time because we're covering it with keeping the moisture in, but that will dry and it will give us some nice effects.
So onto dry paper.
Onto dry paper again, yeah. I mean, feel free to experiment, and you could do 2 bits if you wanted. You could do half wet onto wet and half wet onto dry. Creaking. It is the chair, not me. Well, I hope it's the chair, not me. You go up to Castle Douglas quite a bit, that's where you...
I'm going up this weekend.
Right, just for the weekend?
On the way up to Harry's in Hamilton, so yeah, we're just going Friday night.
It's quite a long way, isn't it?
Yeah. So and then it's about another hour before we up to his.
Right.
So it's like whatever it is, 3.5, 4 hours.
It's 8 hours. 8 hours. Going 8 hours coming back. Deciding on the time of day to go might be better. Obviously with this we don't need our board tilted up, we can use it flat or tilted, it doesn't matter if we're not worried about any back runs of watercolour. We've got that done, got your cling film on, nearly. Often a nice focus to have in a watercolour is some stones or some masonry or a sundial, something like that. So what I want to do now is we'll look at doing wet in wet, and I'm going to do some stone shapes and then drop the colour in, let it dry, and then work in when it's dry. So I'd probably go forward and just do huge stones, so I'm going to go for a little bit of a smaller brush this time. This is a number 8, a number 6, something like that will be fine.
Go round.
Round, yeah, unless you want to do square stones. It's good. You can do square stones. Square Earth. Might be what is it, the Devil's Causeway? So what I'm going to do is onto the dry paper, I'm going to paint some stone shapes. Boulders, just in water. It's a little bit difficult to see sometimes, so I'm just tilting my head to see the light on it. So it doesn't matter too much. Obviously this was going to be our picture that we're painting, we'd have sketched them out and there'd be a pencil line, but
Individual boulders or like
well, it's It could look like a mountain range and be 3 boulders in a line. It doesn't really matter, just a sort of not a square shape, just a little bit of an irregular shape. And then just pick up again some colours. Don't worry too much about the colours that you're using. They don't have to be all browns and greys. So I'm going to start off with I'm just going to drop some. This is a yellow ochre, which is quite a useful colour. So just dab that in. I'm not painting, I'm just sort of dabbing with the paintbrush. Put some of that in. We'll take a bit of that purple and I'll drop some of that in. What this is going to do is to give us a much more interesting picture than if we think, oh, I'm going to paint some stones and I'm going to use brown. So I've got a bit of a nice sort of turquoise here. I've kept the lighter bits at the top. Darker bits down the bottom. We can move this about a little bit as well. Ooh. Right, that's what happens if you drop a big blob of water onto your painting. I'm going to get a bit of black or Payne's grey as well, and just quite a strong mix because we've got quite a lot of water on here, so I'm just going to drop that in as well. And let that do its work. Just leave that, let that dry. I don't want to worry too much about that. It'll take a few minutes to dry because it is quite wet. Give it time. If it's very wet, I can just pull out a little bit of the colour again, the wetness there. That's wet into wet, so you can see how the colour is moving and it's sort of mixing and drawing the colours into each other. In fact, it's almost giving us like a plant-like effect. What I also wanted to do was to, while we're into the stones and foliage and so on, we'll come and look at trees after the break, is to use a sponge. So a natural sponge is great because it has different sized holes in it. You can use a bit of a washing up sponge as well, synthetic sponge, and we can use this to create foliage as well. So into your water and just damp it off. So I'm going to pick up some yellow. It's a bit messy way of working actually. So screw it up into a bit of a ball and just lightly dab. I've got some. I'll go and get some. I've got natural sponges here at £1 each, or I can go and get some. Oh, we've got any at the back, some artificial sponges. I'm going to pick up some blue. Dot that on. So a nice light touch. Do a slightly darker blue.
I'll kind of sponge rose off you.
Yeah, okay. So moving the sponge about so we can create different lights and darks, giving us this sort of technique of bushes and foliage. Just use green here. Well, I haven't used green, actually I've used yellow and blue, but obviously it's merged together. And that's another nice little way of creating some foliage. So we're going to break a little bit earlier for tea and coffee and whatever.